Hi guys, welcome to the quick chemistry review. This is just a short tutorial to remind you about all the skills that hopefully haven't gotten too rusty that you will need before we start our next section of chemistry, where we're going to learn how and why atoms bond, how to write chemical formulas, name compounds, write chemical equations, and balance them. All of that is not very hard, but it becomes impossible if you're missing one or more of these skills. So the first thing is you have to be able to read the periodic table, pull out all kinds of information about an atom, and you have to be able to draw that atom using the Bohr model. So let's use as an example good old lithium, which is down here. So what are the things that you can tell about lithium just by looking at its information here on the periodic table? Pause the tutorial and list as many things as you could possibly tell me about lithium from its little square. Then come back and see if you got all of them. Okay, so obviously you can get the symbol, right? That's the Li. And you can also get the atomic number, which is 3. And that 3 tells you two things. It tells you how many protons and how many electrons lithium has. Then, if you want to know more information about those electrons, you can go over on the right-hand side and find out how many electrons there are in each shell. So there's 2 in the first shell and 1 in the valence shell. The valence shell is the outermost shell, and it is shown as the last number in the column. Then you can also get the average atomic mass of all the different lithium isotopes, and that's down at the bottom, and it's kind of small, but I think it says 6.941. And that's an average mass. That's referred to as the atomic mass, not to be confused with mass number, which is the rounded number, right? When you round it, you get a 7, and that 7 tells you what the mass of a typical lithium atom is. Most lithium atoms have a mass of 7 because they have 3 protons, and the rest of that mass that makes up the 7 must be the neutrons. So you do 7 minus 4 equals 3, and that tells you this is your neutrons, these are your, I'm sorry, I did it backwards. 7 minus 3 equals 4. Hello, Mrs. Stracuzzi. Pardon while I fix that. That's better. So the 7 is the rounded number, which is the mass number. The 3 is the atomic number, which tells us how many protons. And your mass number is due to protons plus neutrons, so the difference between them gives you the number of neutrons, which is 4 for lithium. You can take all that information and put it into a Bohr model to the right. And to do that, here's what you'll need to do. You'll need to write in the middle how many protons and how many neutrons you have. So we have 3 protons, that's the atomic number. And we said 4 neutrons, giving us a mass number of 7. And then we can put the electrons around according to the electron configuration, which is right here. And we'll pop those in. There are 2 in the inner shell. They always go together. Whoops. Well, that's the best I could do. And then the third one, or the extra one, is in the outer valence shell, and it goes right there. So that's how you draw lithium using the Bohr model. Now, after we learned to do this, I believe we started to learn how to do Lewis dot diagrams, or I was intending to show you how to do that, but then that's right, I forgot to create that tutorial. So I'll do that in the next tutorial. This one's just strictly review. There's a couple other things that you can get from the periodic table. You can tell the group number that an element is in, and that's written above. Right here. Sorry. Lost concentration. Right there. And then you can also get the row, which is called a period, which is right here. So lithium is in period 2 and group 1. A lot of you mix those up on your quiz. You got your group and period mixed up. So you need to find a way to remember which is which. Later on, you'll be able to tell that lithium is in the alkali metal group. That's the name that its group has. And it's color-coded, so you should be able to tell that by looking at your periodic table. And that's more or less it. You know, if I asked you, for example, how many valence electrons does lithium have, you can tell. It's got 1. If I asked you how many total electrons it has, you'd say 3, because there are 2 in the inner shell, 1 in the outer shell, so that adds up to 3. You could tell that just by looking at the atomic number. You can tell how many protons you have. You can tell how many neutrons you have. You can tell what period, what group. You can tell the mass number and the atomic mass. Remember, this is your atomic mass, but this is your mass number. So all those things get a little bit confusing if you don't practice enough, which is what I recommend that you do, that you practice. So what you can do is you can get worksheets from me. I'll try and post them also along with this tutorial that help you practice all of this information before you move on to more complicated stuff. And if you messed up one of the 2 atomic quizzes that we had, by all means, you should see me so that you can retake those. And you can retake them as many times as you need to get good at it. So the only skill that's going to be left is drawing Lewis dot diagrams. So if you're totally good with all of this stuff and you don't need practice on that, then you should move on to Lewis dot diagrams. See you guys in class.